Hey everyone, I'm Mike and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm diving into one of the most fascinating what-if questions in Philippine history. What if the Philippines actually became a U.S. state? I know it sounds kind of crazy, but think about it. The Philippines already has a deep connection with the U.S. through history, language, culture, and even family ties. So what if the Philippines became the 51st state of America? How would that change life for millions of Filipinos? Would it be a dream come true or a total disaster? Let's break it all down. Okay, we'll get started with money because let's be honest, that's what everyone is wondering about. If the Philippines became a U.S. state, the economy would absolutely explode. Wages would skyrocket overnight. Imagine earning U.S.-level salaries while still living in Manila, Cebu, or Davao. Even minimum wage jobs could pay 5 to 10 times more than they do now. Poverty could drop dramatically and millions of Filipinos working abroad might finally be able to come home because they wouldn't need to go abroad to earn a decent living anymore. And with U.S. statehood, the Philippines would have access to billions in federal funding. We're talking major infrastructure projects, highways, hospitals, schools, airports, all built to U.S. standards and funded by Washington, D.C. Foreign investors would also line up to pour money into the country, now that the Philippines would be under stable U.S. laws and protected property rights. But of course, it's not all sunshine and palm trees. There is a catch. Prices would rise fast, really fast. The cost of living would shoot up to American levels. Rent, utilities, groceries, even a cup of coffee could suddenly cost a lot more. Imported goods might get cheaper, but your everyday expenses would rise sharply. And say goodbye to the Philippine peso. The US dollar would become the official currency. So yeah, you'd be making more money, but you'd also be spending more money. Now let's talk about politics, because this is where things get interesting. If the Philippines became a US state, every Filipino would instantly become a US citizen. That means full rights to vote, work, and live anywhere in the United States. No more long visa lines and no more green card waiting games. Millions might choose to move to the mainland US for better jobs or education, while others would finally have the opportunity to stay home and still enjoy American benefits. The Philippines would also have real representation in the US government, probably around 10 to 15 seats in the House of Representatives, plus 2 U.S. senators and a governor. That means the Filipino voice would finally be heard in Washington. Imagine a senator from the Philippines debating issues in Congress right next to lawmakers from California and Texas. I did a little research on the salaries of politicians, and the Philippines pays its elected officials about 1/4 than that of the United States pays. So those men and women holding public office would see a significant raise in pay. Now let's talk about culture, because this is where emotions get involved. The Philippines has already been influenced by the U.S., from the English language to Hollywood to movies to basketball. But becoming a U.S. state would take that Americanization to a whole new level. The American flag would fly next to or even replace the Philippine flag. That might not sit well with many Philippine citizens because they're a very patriotic people. It kind of reminds me a little bit of a miniseries that aired on ABC in the late 1980s. The miniseries was called America. It was spelled America with a K. The whole plot was that the old Soviet Union had taken over peacefully the United States. It didn't sit well with many Americans portrayed in the show, and I think that we would see the same sentiment of Filipinos towards a peaceful U.S. takeover. And I, for one, think that this idea should never happen. The Philippines should just stay the Philippines. But I thought that this would be a fun video to make, looking at how Philippine culture would be affected. English would likely become the only official language, the peso, the presidency, even the national anthem, gone. That's a tough pill to swallow. Like I kind of said earlier, many Filipinos take great pride in their independence, and rightfully so. After centuries of colonization, the idea of giving up sovereignty could feel like turning back the clock. There'd also be big cultural clashes. The Philippines is one of the most religious and family-oriented nations in the world, while the U.S. leans more secularism and individualism. Hot-button issues like same-sex marriage, abortion, and the separation of church and state could ignite passionate debates. Filipino values of respect, faith, and community might start blending or even clashing with American liberal ideals. In short, Philippines might gain wealth and power, but risk losing some of its identity. Now let's talk about the military side, because you know this would shake up global politics big time. If the Philippines became a U.S. state, it would instantly become America's front line in Asia. The U.S. military would massively expand bases in Subic Bay, Clark, and maybe even parts of Mindanao. On one hand, that would mean incredible security. The Philippines would be fully protected under the U.S. defense umbrella. Any attack from China, North Korea, or anyone else would be considered an attack on the United States itself. On the other hand, that could also make the Philippines a major target in any future conflict. You'd have U.S. aircraft carriers, missile systems, and troops stationed right next to the South China Sea. And speaking of China, oh boy, Beijing would lose its mind. China already dislikes the strong U.S.-Philippine alliance, so if the Philippines officially became part of the U.S., tensions would skyrocket. The South China Sea would go from being a disputed zone to American territory overnight. So could this ever happen? All right, now that we've dreamed a little, let's come back to reality.
Absolutely.
In answer to my question, honestly, almost impossible, and here is why. First, the U.S. Constitution doesn't make it easy to admit faraway, non-contiguous regions as states. Hawaii and Alaska were already a distance away. The Philippines is even farther and has a totally different culture and economy. Second, the population. The Philippines has over 115 million people, more than California and Texas combined. That would instantly make it one of the largest and most powerful states in Congress. Do you really think that the other states would vote for that? Probably not. Third, the economic gap. The average income in the Philippines is a fraction of the U.S. average. The federal government would have to pour trillions of dollars into infrastructure, healthcare, and social programs to bring the country up to U.S. standards. Fourth, national pride. The Philippines fought long and hard for independence. Many Filipinos, and Americans too, wouldn't want to give that up, no matter how good the economic deal looks. And finally, U.S. public opinion. Let's face it, most Americans aren't eager to add a massive Asian state halfway across the world. The politics, costs, cultural challenges would make it a tough sell. So what's more likely? A more realistic scenario would be a deeper partnership, kind of like what the U.S. has with Guam or Puerto Rico, but with more rights and economic ties. The Philippines could gain special status with free trade, freer movement of people, and even more U.S. investment without giving up independence. That way, the Philippines could enjoy many of the benefits of U.S. statehood, higher wages, better infrastructure, and a stronger defense, while keeping its own flag, culture, and government. A few final thoughts. If the Philippines became a U.S. state, it would be a massive transformation. Economically, it could become one of the richest regions in Asia. Politically, it would gain a real power in Washington. But culturally and emotionally, it might lose something priceless: its independence and identity. In the end, maybe it's better for the Philippines to stay proudly Filipino, while building an even stronger friendship with the United States. Because whether it ever becomes a U.S. state or not, one thing's for sure: the bond between Filipinos and Americans isn't going anywhere. So what do you think? Would you support the Philippines becoming a U.S. state, or do you believe the country should always stay independent? I think it should be the latter. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that bell notification for more of these what-ifs with regards to the Philippines. Thanks for watching. This is Mike signing off. See you in the next video. God bless and peace out.